Out of the darkness and into the light, it's the This Woman Knows podcast.
So welcome back to another episode of This Woman Knows. I am your host, Lisa Ann Alexander, and today we have a very special guest. This is, some of you may know him as Mr. NFL because that's how I referred to him for many years, especially when he was still in high school and middle school. I wasn't real comfortable sharing all his information online, so the world just knew him as Mr. NFL. But this is our son, Mr. Evan James Alexander. Welcome to the show, Evan.
Hi, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. So we're going to have a conversation. This is a Gen Z money show. We're going to talk about money. We're going to talk about listening to that still small voice. And so we'll just have a conversation about his vehicle or the vehicles that he's had. So tell us about your very first vehicle that you had.
So you mean like the Sentra or the very, very first?
Go back to your first car, which you were driving to school in.
Yeah. So I had I think it was older than me. It was a 1999, 98 Chevy Lumina. And I loved that thing. It had the big subwoofer, the speakers, all of that, the tinted windows. That was my baby. But that one died pretty recently, a couple of years ago. And then had to move on to the next one, which was gifted to me. Thankfully, that was great. Little red car, like 2000, another, beater, but it got me from A to B. So I had a history of driving A to B cars, and that one was totaled. Well, not totaled. I guess you could say totaled.
It was totaled.
By there was a flood, and it got up to like the windows, and it was done. So I was in the market for a new car for the first time, where I actually had to buy it on my own. And that was a new experience for me. Didn't make the right decision.
So let's talk about that, because all the cars you had driven up to that point were gifted to you. So you had never had a car payment, none of that. These were cars you could drive till the wheels fell off, and had not the Sentra flooded, you would have still been in that car. So let's talk a little bit. So you were talking about getting a car. Do you remember the conversations you and I had? I think you were going through a list of things that you wanted. Do you remember any of those conversations?
I remember telling you that I was on the right track. I was like, I do not want a car note. I was very against that. And then I started looking at these nice cars that I could get, and I fell off the wagon. I ended up going big, even though I really shouldn't have. My eyes got too big for my wallet, you could probably say. Bought a luxury car, 2015 Infinity, and I didn't really do my research. Well, I did a little research, but I was listening to, financial people on TikTok saying never ever buy a new car. Well, don't finance a car, basically, unless you're, pretty well off. And I knew that information, and I did it anyway. I still went in. I went to CarMax, which is another not good decision, because their used cars are marked up and you can't negotiate. Yeah, just poor decisions all around.
And so as your mom, all I could do is offer suggestions. I said, I think one of the things is like, now remember, it's like with luxury brands, and it's like, so everything is more expensive with a luxury brand. I think we did have this conversation. I said, gas is going to be a little bit more expensive because you can't put regular in. And, this is at a time where gas is no longer $4 or $5, which is high here in Houston. So we were back, about $3 a gallon. And I said, just know that it's a little bit more expensive. And I think you had it. So it's like, as a mom, I just step back. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
It's like, we got them. It's like, however this falls out, it's like, we got you. But okay.
Yeah. I don't think there was anything anybody could tell me at that point. I was just gonna do. I was gonna do it anyway. I knew the gas was gonna be crazy. And it was. It was like $50 a week going to work and back, and gas mileage was bad. The gas itself, the premium gas was bad, and it felt good for about 2 weeks. Driving the car.
Just 2 weeks. I thought it was.
Yeah.
I thought you had a longer honeymoon period than that. It only 2 weeks.
Well, I might be exaggerating a little bit because when I was working closer to home, the gas was really hitting me, and then now I got to drive a little bit farther. That's when I'm like, okay, I made a mistake here.
So you told me something. When we went to CarMax, because we went with you, and I think they tell you, you have 30 days. If if it's not working out for you, if something's wrong with the car, you can always bring it back. So tell me about this internal conversation that you had with yourself that I didn't find out about until much later.
Yeah. So it was not my smartest moment. I was listening to financial people like on YouTube and TikTok. That's where I get a lot of my finance information from. And what they were telling me, don't finance a car. It's a bad idea. Don't do it. And in my head, I was like, I got 30 days to return this and maybe do something different. But the car was it was so nice, and it was nothing I haven't experienced that before, and it was fast, and it was I was blinded by the luxury.
And that happens to so many of us, is that when we have opportunities to get the things that we've always wanted because we didn't have them before. And it's a lesson I think that we all kind of learn. Some of us bounce back from it a lot sooner than others. And then you still have people who are still trying to make up for stuff that they didn't get or stuff that they didn't have. So for you to have learned the lesson, or it's like the nice shiny things no longer, it's like, okay, I know what nice shiny thing, the price tag for nice shiny things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And luckily I was able to get out of that. It didn't seem like it at first, but it was the best thing that could have happened to me.
So let's talk about how. Okay, so let's talk money first. So you were, you worked you worked retail, and then you got you got an office job. So you still working on getting to school, getting the degree and all the things, but working right now. And so let's talk about budgeting. Did you budget? So you only had guesstimates or good estimates before you bought the car. So you could say, insurance was going to be about, I think we had figured maybe $200 extra, and then gas, and then the car note. Had you really sat down and looked at your numbers?
I never made a budget. That was a huge mistake. I knew how much it would cost, but I was thinking like, oh, in the grand scheme of things, it's not that bad because I didn't know the real numbers of it. And yeah, and it cost me. It cost me quite a bit, and I was like the pressure and the anxiety that it gave me from, I have this goal that I want to do, and this car is gonna it's gonna take a longer time to reach those goals because I got these stupid car payments I got to do. So it's definitely a lesson learned.
So I remember you telling me that you thought about returning the car within that 30-day period. What kept you from going, you know what? Nah, it's all right. I think I like my cash better and returning the car. So
Right.
what made you not do that? Because it was an option on the table.
It was. I struggled with it. I went back and forth on it. It
Mm,
was a big, I guess you could say, argument I had with myself.
mm,
But at the end of the day, it was just, I really want this. I just couldn't let go of it. I knew how bad it was for me, but I just couldn't do it. It was like I was holding on to the rope and it was burning my hand, and
mm.
I just couldn't let it go.
So you know that you have praying folk, you
Mhm,
a praying great grandmother, uh your grandmother, and then of course your mama,
mhm,
all prayed for you. And we've always had money conversations. So it's like as I learn things or I become aware, I've been honest and I share things with you. And so I
mhm.
um always wanted to be able to just be frank and be honest with you. And it's like, look, I made this mistake. Like, don't you dare make the same mistake. And it's like,
Mhm.
so we've had those kinds of conversations. So tell us what happened to your nice shiny car. Go back
Okay.
to the day.
Well, I was coming home from work one day and I was about to get on the freeway and there was a car in front of me and the car in front of me swerved out the way really fast. And in the road there was a like a shredded up tire.
Mm,
I guess somebody it gave out on them and they just left it in the road and it was in the middle of the street and I couldn't really avoid it, so I just hit it head on.
mm,
And I kept driving. I looked in the rearview mirror. I didn't see the tire on the road anymore. So I was like, okay, I hope it's not under the car right now. And then as I'm on the freeway, the car starts smoking from behind me.
mm.
And then smoke starts getting in the cabin, like in the actual cabin of the car. So I let down all the windows. I pull over. I look under the car and I don't see anything. And that's when I called dad, and he said to just get off the freeway. And so I did. I get off. I pull into this church parking lot,
Mm.
and then I get out. I look over, and then the car is already on fire. I tried to get something from the back, from the trunk, like a can or something, trying to see if I can, nudge whatever is under there off of it. But it was already too late. It was already in flames.
Mm.
So I called 911. They, you know, uh, tore up the trunk of the car, took opened it, poured all the water on it, and yeah, it was done from there.
And so the first thing I did when I got there is I hugged you.
Hmm.
Because first of all, I was glad for your safety, first and foremost. So hugged you. And then I think I just stood and looked at the car and was just in complete disbelief
Hmm.
because from the steering wheel to the back of the car was pristine. It was beautiful. There
Hmm.
was no more engine. The front of that, it was gone. Tires melted. It was it.
Hmm. Yeah, it was really fast too. The way it happened, the fire people got there in like minutes, like two minutes or so,
Wow.
and that's all it took. It was gone.
So how did you feel standing there? One, watching the car ablaze. What was running through your mind?
I felt it was helpless. It was a really helpless
Mm,
feeling knowing that there was nothing I can do. Uh, this car that I love now, that was
mm,
my that was my baby, and just seeing it up in flames, it hurt. It hurt a lot.
mm,
At the time,
mm,
I didn't really understand that it could be a good thing for me, but
mm-hmm.
it definitely didn't feel great watching them
Yeah.
tear open the trunk and all that things. It wasn't good.
And so I think you and I had a conversation about the car and about the car notes before this, and that how you might have thought that, maybe this wasn't the best idea. I think we had that conversation. And so when I'm looking at the car going up in flames, of course, I'm grateful that you're well. And then two, I start at the parking lot, I'm going, well, if there was a way to get out of this was just divine because
Mm-hmm.
nobody else was involved. There was no
Mm-hmm.
damage to anybody's property. This is
Right.
a freak accident that happened. I'm going, would you look at it? But I wouldn't share that with you in that moment because I know your heart was broken, but I'm going,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
hmm,
Yeah.
hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it took me a little while to come to that conclusion. Like, okay, this is might be better for me. It
Yeah.
took me like it probably took me a couple of days to realize, okay, I'm carless right now, and
Hmm.
I did like that car, but now it's opportunity for me to start over, get
Yeah.
something that's better for me, that'll won't, hinder what I'm trying to do here. And yeah, it wasn't a long turnaround to come to that.
No, I would say within you're right. It was days, and you were saying I think you told me you says it's I can start over. This is
Mhm.
a good chance for me to start over, and I just thought that was such wisdom that it's like now. And I think you told me you was like, oh, I've had nice shiny, I've had luxury brands, don't need it again.
Yeah, yeah. I was telling you, I think I told you that I was trying to skip steps in my process. I was trying to have a nice car,
Mm.
do this nice thing when I'm not at that point yet, just being honest. I'm not at that point in my life. And I'll
Mm.
get it back again,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just right now I need to
Timing.
drive this not so
Be-
fast car.
Okay, before we get there, so tell me about what you do know or what you've learned through this process and about money. So first tell me you have some goals that you want to hit. And if you don't mind sharing, I don't want
Mhm.
you to go too personal, but just you have some pretty decent goals that you want to hit.
Mhm. Yeah. I want I want a house for one. That's one of the bigger goals. I want to be a homeowner.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I have a special someone that I want to
Yeah, yeah,
buy buy something for.
yeah, yeah,
That's really the two main goals. Finishing school, I gotta
yeah.
um pay out of pocket for school. So
And
um
that's an option for you. That is a decision that you made that you want to save for school because you do not want student loan debt.
right. I've seen how it really impacts a lot of people. So I'm gonna
Sir,
go the cheaper
sir.
option. Right. I think it's trillions of dollars in student loan that the country's
Mm-hmm.
in. So I
Mm-hmm.
have a little bit of it, and I don't want to get any more. So um, I'm good on those.
So, and I think one of the things that you and I talked about, and I don't know if you've been able to move forward on this, but the company that you work for now, and a lot of companies do this, is that they offer tuition reimbursement. So
Hmm.
let's say you do decide to go in a particular field, it just makes it, even if you don't,
Hmm.
some organizations, some corporations will help you pay for school. Sometimes with the thought that you'll stay for at least a year after you finish your degree, a year or two, but it is
Hmm.
something to look into, and that helps keep your cost for school down. So
Right.
I know you and I, we've had that conversation, and so you're still um looking. And I don't know if you want to talk about that, but that was, it all kind of like ties in, fits in together about making choices, making decisions. And you had shared with me, it was like, well, maybe I should have taken a year off in between high school and college, um,
Mhm.
just to really decide, because you're still, that's something you're still trying to figure out. And a lot of people coming out of high school don't have a clue.
Mhm.
They don't know what they want to do, and this, end up getting degrees and things that they're not passionate about, working jobs they can't stand. And
Mhm.
so
Right. I mean, if I can go back and talk to myself at
mhm,
17, 18, I would say just take a little time just to, work and find out what you really like to do. Like
mhm,
really find out, because I thought I knew what I wanted to do,
mhm,
as far as physical therapy,
mhm,
and it turns out that wasn't really what I wanted. So
Mm-hmm.
I wish I would have made that pivot a lot earlier. I
Yeah.
wish I would have knew that about myself a while ago so I could save a little time, save money.
Mm-hmm.
I came out pretty lucky. I didn't have 50, $60,000 of student
Right.
loan debt before I decided to change it up. So I'm thankful for that. But
Mm-hmm.
and that's definitely something I would do, take a year off.
Wisdom. And it's not like you're that much older. You just had a birthday. You just turned 24. So
Hmm.
24-year-old. And you have wisdom. You go through these things, you learn these lessons, and
Hmm.
it's a beautiful thing. So tell us what happened. I think, was it last weekend? So, and
Yeah.
you had been catching rides to work, and it was working
Hmm.
out. I mean,
It was.
it worked out. We told we can make this work, and we
Hmm.
did. But last week,
Right, right. So I'm saving up a little change. Just going through Facebook Marketplace, looking for a used car, something I should have did a while ago. And yeah, we researched for quite a while. Um, ran into some not
oh
so great
God,
cars.
yeah,
One guy was trying to sell a car with no horn, no airbags.
yeah,
It was a little rough, but um, I feel like that's kind of the trade-off that you
mhm,
take. It's easier to go finance a car.
yeah,
You know it's going to be more reliable. You just got to sign some papers.
hmm,
But the long run, it's worse. But if you put the work in, trying to find a nice used car and pay it off cash, like what we did, um, I feel way better about that now. Found a nice Honda,
hmm,
um, great on gas mileage.
yeah.
I love that. I went to work and back all this weekend, had like a half a tank left, and
See,
yeah, it was great. And it didn't cost, it didn't break the bank really. It's a nice car. It's got a sunroof, heated seats. It's a little older, but it gets the job
hmm,
done. I can drive that thing for a
hmm,
while. So,
hmm. And
and
one of the benefits, so buying a used car can be an experience because you do have some folk out there who are not always honest.
mhm,
So I think what is a huge benefit to you is Mr. Elgin Alexander, aka Shade Tree Mechanic, who has kept
absolutely.
all he keeps these vehicles up and running. And we have never had to go to a mechanic. We never had to go into a mechanic. Like never.
Hmm.
In
Yeah.
35 years of marriage, we have never gone to a mechanic because it's always been him. He would rather fix it himself. One, he has trust issues.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He has trust issues. Um, he don't trust the people to do what they say. And so he would rather, do it himself. And so he's kept all of our vehicles up and running. And so, it's always, whenever we do this, whenever we're looking for a car, and it's like we have a routine down, and it's like I know what to look for. Elgin's going to do what he's doing, and you benefited from that.
Absolutely. He was it was such a crazy thing. Like he has so much experience. We were test driving the car and he was like, okay, so that's something that could be wrong. That's another thing. That's another thing. I'm like, how do you figure that out just from driving this? It was crazy, but he's very, very knowledgeable. And I learned a lot from you guys about that too. So next
Mm.
time I have to buy a car and I have some things to look for.
And so it doesn't mean that we can't have nice things.
Hmm.
When I didn't want you to walk away with that, is that we can't have nice things or luxury brands. And it's, again, to your point, you said, and it's like when I'm in a place to do so.
Hmm.
And then even then, it's like if you want nice, it's choice. It boils down to
Right.
choice. If I want it, fine. If I don't, fine. It doesn't make me one way or the other. And I don't
Hmm.
think you haven't been that person to tie self-worth into stuff so much. I don't,
Right.
you haven't been that person. And so for that, I'm grateful. Um,
Yeah.
um, and it's like, it doesn't make me or break me. And so I was talking to one of my entrepreneur friends, and She says, I'm driving up in my 2014 Kia, whatever it is, something. It's like, and,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
because of so much, so just to sidetrack a little bit, so much of what you do see on social media ain't real.
Mm-mm. Not at all. It's you can
Manufactured.
right, right. You can have a nice car and be broke. Like you can drive I was doing it. I had a little retail job driving a luxury car. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not really about that for me. Um thankfully I learned that lesson. But yeah, definitely
And
don't
I
need those nice things.
I love how I love how God made a way for you. And it's like, I don't want to say that God set your car on fire. I'm not going to, I won't say
Yeah,
that, but I will. I'm just grateful for how things transpired for you and how you were able to have a second chance, because not everybody gets it. Some people have to go ahead and go the whole 96 months,
hmm,
however, whatever that
yeah,
is. And I think one of the things that you were concerned about, so let's talk about having good insurance too. Shout out
right.
to Eileen Collins, our
Hmm,
insurance person. Girl, we love you. Thank you.
hmm, yeah.
So Eileen, man, oh, thank God for Eileen.
Yeah,
So we have the car. So when you're financing a car, you have to have comp and collision versus just straight liability on your beater car, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
so in addition to comp and collision, we had gap insurance. So one of the conversations you and I did have, you were worried about the paying off the car if you would still owe money. And so I think it was definitely a learning moment. And it was like, Evan, no, they're not coming for you for the whole 96 months. And it's like, just there's a payoff amount. And so
Right,
that was something that you learned. And then it's like
right,
what the payoff amount is today, because you can always pay off debt early.
right.
You should be able to pay off debt early. It's a pretty
Hmm,
crappy company if they don't allow you to pay off debt early.
yeah.
And so, I mean, there was a weight that came off your shoulders when I told you,
Oh,
it's like,
absolutely.
Evan, it's like, no, there is.
Yeah, that worried me a lot because I thought that they were gonna tack on the interest because with the interest it was gonna be a lot
Mm-hmm,
more. So I was like, because the worth of the car and plus the interest, I was thinking that I was gonna have to owe a lot more money and I was just
mm-hmm,
gonna be stuck. But
mm-hmm,
it was a learning lesson. All of this was a learning lesson. I learned a lot from this.
mm-hmm.
And that's really how it goes. The hard times, you learn your lesson and you never make that mistake again.
And that's key, because I'll tell you what a very mature woman, older than myself, I was complaining, and it's like, man, and it's like, I just figured this out at 40, at 50, I'm just figuring some stuff out. And she looked at me, she says, Lisa, she says, there are women who are 70 years old who still haven't learned what you just learned and have implemented. So life is about learning. And if you can learn those lessons and implement them, then you can guarantee I don't have to go through this again. It's like I already learned this,
Mm.
and you could
Because
apply it. Go ahead.
I was like, because it's different hearing somebody tell you something like you shouldn't do this, and like, what do they know? But when you go through it yourself and you feel the hurt personally, and
Mm-hmm,
you feel that regret, that
mm-hmm.
sometimes pain is the best
Teacher.
teacher in life.
Very
So
true. Very true. And there are, there's different ways to learn. So you can definitely learn by observation. And I think you've done a great deal of that just on a personal level, just by watching family, watching people, just watching and going, yep, no, not going to do that. Yep, that's not a good idea. So that's definitely one way to learn. And then sometimes we have to go through a thing. We have to experience it so that that lesson is cemented in us.
mhm,
And
mhm.
then nothing can move you from what you know now.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Because it's like It's like when your mom tells you not to touch the hot stove.
Yeah.
Sometimes, they might let you touch you just so not to
Mm,
touch that stove again.
mm,
So you feel that pain, like, okay, that's gonna hurt if I do that. It's different from them telling you it's hot and you actually experiencing that it's
mm-hmm,
gonna burn you. That's the kind of analogy that I put
mm-hmm.
between the car and that the car was touching the stove, and I'll never do that again for sure.
Because there was no way I could have talked you out of it.
Yeah.
I knew this was not a good idea. It's like, just bite your lip and go, okay,
Right.
okay, okay. And so when everything went down, I was like, wow. It's like,
Yeah.
look
Mm-hmm.
how
Mm-hmm.
amazing things worked out for you on the back end. So now you got a ride that's I like it. It's
Oh, me too.
Hondas last forever. So
They do.
that one will be definitely one of those cars that you drive till the wheels fall off, or till your father just assumes it's like, okay, we can't fix it. It is beyond
Right.
repair.
Right.
It's beyond repair.
350,000 miles. That's more. That means more to me than having a little speed under the hood right now. So it worked out.
It did. It did. Evan, thank you so much for sharing your story, for being transparent. You're one of my favorite. You're my favorite Gen Z person that I know. I have great love for Gen Zs, you in particular, and
Yeah.
I love how you guys are learning and putting things into place, and for all the lessons learned. And I know people are kind of leery. It's like, what are you learning on TikTok? And it's like, TikTok, there's some good stuff out there on social media. Not everything is trashy. Not everything is ratchet. There are some good things happening on TikTok. So I applaud you for finding the good things and making smart money moves.
I'm trying. I'm learning my lessons, and I'm definitely trying.
Early too. You're learning them early, which is, so by 30, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, we'll come back and interview you at 30.
Right. Building wealth is the goal. That's the goal. Being able to, pass things down, to children. Exactly. I got mine over there too. But
Yes, sir. That's the goal. That's the goal. Well, Evan, thank you so much for sharing your story, and we'll check back with you 30 and when you're 30.
For sure.
All right, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to another episode of This Woman Knows podcast. For show notes, blog posts, guest booking information, and sponsorship opportunities, visit us online at www.thiswomanknows.com today.